You wake up at 3 a.m. and you don't know why. The room is quiet. The house is still. Nothing is wrong. But your heart is already beating faster than it should be. Your eyes are scanning the darkness before your conscious mind has even finished loading. And somewhere deep in your chest there is a pull, ancient, wordless, and completely certain that something out there is watching you. Nothing is watching you. You know that. And yet the feeling doesn't care what you know. This is not anxiety. This is not imagination. This is a system inside your brain that has been running without interruption for approximately 2 million years. And it was never built for the world you actually live in. It was built for a world that wanted to eat you. Anthropologist and evolutionary biologist Randolph Nesse spent decades studying what he called the smoke detector principle. His argument was precise. Natural selection doesn't optimize for accuracy. It optimizes for survival. A brain that fires a false alarm 100 times costs you almost nothing. A brain that misses a real threat even once could cost you everything. So your brain learned to be wrong on purpose, constantly, reliably in the direction of fear. The system responsible is called the amygdala. Two small almond-shaped clusters of neurons buried deep inside your temporal lobes. And they do not wait for you to think. The amygdala receives sensory information before your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that reasons, plans, and evaluates, has any chance to process it. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux mapped this pathway in the 1990s and called it the low road, a fast, rough signal that bypasses logic entirely and goes straight to response. A rustle in the grass, a shadow at the edge of vision, a sound you can't identify. Your amygdala fires before you know why. And in the savannas of East Africa, where your ancestors spent the vast majority of their existence, that speed was the difference between life and death. The human lion was not the fastest animal on that landscape, not the strongest, not the most armored. What your ancestors had was pattern recognition and the capacity to act on it before thinking. Predator detection shaped your nervous system the way water shapes stone, slowly, completely, and without asking permission. But here is the counterintuitive part. The threats that haunted the Pleistocene were not random. They followed specific sensory patterns. Movement at the periphery, eyes in the dark, sounds that stopped suddenly, a shape that didn't match the surrounding terrain. And so your brain didn't just learn to fear predators in general, it learned to fear the specific signatures of being watched, being followed, being selected. Psychologist Gordon Gallup Jr. studied what he called predator-induced tonic immobility, the freeze response that occurs in prey animals when capture becomes inevitable. What he found was that the human body still carries the full biological machinery for this response. When the perception of inescapable threat overwhelms the system, the brain can shut down voluntary movement entirely, not as a malfunction, as a strategy, play dead, become small, disappear. You have felt a version of this, not in the jaws of a lion, but in a performance review that went wrong, in a conversation that turned cold, in the moment before a crowd turned to look at you. The brain does not distinguish cleanly between social threat and physical threat. Both travel the same neural highways. Both produce the same cortisol spike. Both tell the same ancient story. Someone has spotted you. Someone is deciding what to do with you. Because on the ancestral savanna, social exclusion was not a bruised feeling. It was a death sentence. A human alone, without a group, without shelter, without coordinated defense, had a life expectancy measured in days. The social brain and the survival brain evolved together, overlapping, sharing infrastructure, and they still do. This is why being watched by strangers produces the same low-grade arousal as walking through a dark parking lot at night. This is why public speaking, statistically, triggers more dread than the prospect of death for a large percentage of adults. This is why the sensation of being stared at from behind makes the hair on your neck rise even when you cannot see the person doing it. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake spent years investigating what he called the sense of being stared at, and while the mechanism remains debated, what is not debated is the sensation itself. It is near universal across cultures, across ages, across history. The nervous system built to detect being watched does not take days off. You carry the architecture of prey, and the environment you now inhabit was not designed for that architecture. Your brain cannot distinguish between a notification sound and a snapping twig. It cannot reliably separate the scroll of bad news from the experience of witnessing real danger. The same system that sharpened your ancestors into efficient survivors now lights up for emails marked urgent, for arguments in comment sections, for the particular quality of silence that follows a difficult conversation. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your pupils dilate. Digestion slows. Immune function dips. The body is redirecting its resources toward muscle and reflex because something in your environment has pattern matched to danger, and the body does not need it to be a leopard to treat it like one. The result is a nervous system in a state of low-grade, near-permanent alert in a world that almost never requires the response it keeps preparing for. This is not a flaw. Understand that clearly. The system worked. It worked so well that every single one of your ancestors, in an unbroken line stretching back through the ice ages and the migrations and the extinctions, survived long enough to reproduce. You are here because fear kept them alive. You are here because they woke at 3 a.m. when the darkness shifted. You are here because something deep in their minds never fully trusted the quiet. But the system was not designed for longevity. It was designed for survival windows of 10, 20, 30 years in an environment that killed indiscriminately. It was not designed for a lifespan of 80 years in a world where the threats are largely invisible, largely symbolic, and largely incapable of eating you. The hypervigilance that kept your ancestor alive through one dangerous night is the same mechanism that keeps you from sleeping now. And there is something quietly remarkable about that. Tonight, when the light is off and the room is still, and your brain wakes you for no reason it can explain, that is 2 million years of successful survival pressing against the walls of a world that has changed too fast for evolution to follow. Your brain still thinks you're being hunted. It's wrong, but it kept every single one of your ancestors alive long enough to hand that fear down to you. So the next time the darkness makes you scan the room before you know why, that is not weakness. That is the oldest inheritance you have.